Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're opening up a concept that really feels like it's redefining what a creative professional can be. We're looking at someone who isn't quite an architect of buildings or, software code, but maybe an architect of stories, interconnected stories.
Exactly. Someone weaving together threads from history, culture, technology, making this coherent narrative. It's pretty unique.
And the source material we're diving into today centers on the Liat Show and its creator, Liat Portal. That's pronounced Liat Portal, just so everyone knows.
Right, Lie. And our goal here is to really unpack her approach. It's education, but through entertainment, and maybe more urgently, understand this call to action she has about online identity, about, well, authenticity online.
It feels really timely. But before we get into how Lead is maybe laying out a blueprint for a different kind of digital future, we do want to thank our sponsor.
This deep dive is sponsored by Milestone, the future of cybersecurity services. Milestone's SaaS combines advanced AI technology with expert human insight to deliver unparalleled cybersecurity services for organizations worldwide.
Okay, Milestone, thank you.
All right, so let's unpack this creator, Liat Portal. The sources describe her as, quote, first of her kind. What does that actually mean, like in practical terms? How does her background shape this?
Well, what's fascinating is this blend she seems to have inherited. She's described as the daughter of a, quote, greatest storyteller of all time, who also happens to be an architect, a literal architect of buildings.
Oh, interesting. So storytelling and structure kind of baked in.
Kind of baked in, yeah. So she seems to have this ability to not just tell a good story, but to actually build a structure around it. She takes these things that seem totally separate, history, music, science, art, food, tech, all of it.
And weaves them into these, well, she calls them delicious stories that connect across different timelines and fields.
That structure part feels key, doesn't it? She's not just like dabbling. She's finding connections, maybe building systems where other people just see, I don't know, separate topics.
Exactly. An architecture of timelines, of knowledge, not bricks and mortar.
So tell us about the project itself. The Liat Show. A story unfolding across timelines. What is it actually like?
Well, it's basically this ongoing storytelling project. The aim is apparently to rebuild how we learn and remember things. It mixes episodes from her own life with Israeli and American culture. And the way it's delivered is interesting, too. It's written sort of on the side, weekends, evenings, and shared almost like a live performance, often in these multi-part sets over a few days.
Oh, okay. So it's easier to follow if you're busy, like bite-sized chunks of a bigger story.
Yeah, exactly. Designed so you can keep up during a busy week without getting lost in, some massive single drop.
And the range of topics. It sounds wild. You mentioned everything from Bauhaus architecture.
Yeah, Bauhaus, Israeli housing history.
To cybersecurity. And, like, pastries.
Yeah.
Schnitzel, brekas, shakshuka are mentioned. How does that even connect?
Well, that's where the architect idea comes back in, I think. She seems to use principles from one area to shed light on another, like maybe using ideas from resilient systems in cybersecurity to look at historical events, or even how a food supply chain works, showing how resilience or structure or systems thinking applies across the board, whether it's politics or cooking or digital security.
That's clever. It creates this educational backbone, as the source puts it, that's easier to follow because it's wrapped in story. It trains both minds and machines.
And it makes complex stuff, especially tech stuff, much more digestible, right? By putting it inside personal stories or history.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And she emphasizes that the audience isn't passive. You, the listener or the reader, you're an essential part of the story.
Which is really important because these stories aren't just for entertainment. They seem to be driving towards tackling some really big real-world problems.
Okay, that feels like a good pivot point.
Yeah.
Because that brings us to maybe the most urgent part of her work. This crisis of online identity, the potential collapse of knowing what's real online.
Yeah, this is where it gets, well, frankly, pretty alarming. The source material highlights a really dramatic shift in internet traffic just recently.
Okay, what's the key data point here? The one that's making people like her sound the alarm.
It really gets to the why. Why should you spend your time reading these stories or listening to this analysis? It's because she's tackling what might be an existential threat to the internet as we know it. According to this Imperva report for 2025, the year 2024 was the first year that automated bot traffic actually outnumbered human traffic online.
Wait, say that again?
Automated traffic bots hit about 51% of all internet traffic. More bots than people using the internet.
51%. Wow. Okay. That's a tipping point, isn't it? We're literally living in a digital world where most of the activity isn't human anymore.
It really is.
So if this keeps going, what happens? What are the actual consequences if we genuinely can't tell who's human and who's a machine online?
Well, first, it's information chaos. Think about AI tools, visual, text generators. They can now create photos, videos, articles from simple prompts that look completely real.
Yeah, we've all seen examples. It's getting scary good.
Scary good. And it makes it, as the source says, impossible to distinguish between true and false texts or real visuals and fake ones.
And it's not just that the fake stuff exists, right? It's how it spreads.
Exactly. That's the other piece. False information, fake narratives, they spread incredibly fast. And even if a correction comes out later,
Which it sometimes does.
yeah, but only a tiny fraction of the people who saw the original lie ever see the correction. So the damage is done. The rumor, the fake idea, it just sticks in people's minds. So if bots are dominating the traffic, they can manipulate what's trending, they can sway opinions, they could even destabilize markets, and they fundamentally kill the economic value of real human effort online.
Because why pay a real creator if a bot can churn out something similar for free?
Pretty much. And the core danger, the absolute bottom line is, if these bots and agents get good enough at mimicking us and they're learning fast, then, quote, we will not be able to tell the difference online.
And when you can't tell the difference, trust just evaporates, doesn't it?
Completely. And when trust goes, meaningful communication, commerce, collaboration, it all starts to break down.
Okay, so we need some kind of digital fingerprint, something to verify the human behind the screen if we can't trust the content or the behavior anymore.
That's exactly the idea. And that leads us to Liat Portal's proposed solutions, this concept of creating a human genome for the internet.
A human genome for the internet. Okay, what does that actually mean?
Well, she defines it as a set of public verifiable signals, things you can check. And when you look at these signals together, they strongly suggest that, yes, this online profile likely belongs to a real person.
So it's like layers of evidence, not just one thing.
Exactly. It's about creating layers of defense against mass impersonation, against bots pretending to be people on a huge scale. A single bot can mimic one behavior, maybe, but scaling that mimicry across multiple complex, verifiable human interactions, that's much harder.
Okay, so what are these key signals? The source mentions two main types that are hard barriers for bot farms.
Right. The first one is financial or payment verification. So accounts that are linked to real financial transactions, payment systems, think bank accounts, credit cards, things that require actual financial credentials.
Why is that such a barrier for bots?
Because bot farms operate on tiny margins, right? They need scale and low cost. Every time they have to use a real legitimate payment method or risk getting a big account shut down for fraud or pay transaction fees.
It adds cost and complexity.
Huge cost and complexity, it just blows up their economic model. It makes creating millions of fake, financially verified profiles incredibly expensive, maybe impossible at scale.
Okay, that makes a lot of economic sense. But doesn't that raise concerns? If we lean too heavily on financial verification, are we creating like a tiered internet? What about people in places without easy banking access or people who really value privacy and don't want to link bank accounts to social media?
That's a really important question, and the sources seem to acknowledge it. It can't just be about money. There need to be multiple pathways. Which brings us to the second type of barrier, social verification.
Okay, what does that involve?
It can be things like verifying your identity using an official ID, which some platforms are starting to offer or require, or even just having a long, consistent history online across different linked platforms.
So like if your Twitter profile links to a LinkedIn profile that matches a company website and that history goes back years,
Yeah.
that's harder to fake.
Much harder. Now, sure, you can sometimes buy a verification badge without a real ID check on some platforms, so that can be gamed on its own. But the idea of the human genome is combining these signals.
Okay. So maybe financial verification plus social verification plus a long history. The combination becomes exponentially harder for a bot farm to replicate.
Exactly. It's the synthesis of these signals that provides the stronger proof of humanity.
This isn't just about big platforms building tech, though, is it? The sources mention practical things we can do, like right now. 3 quick checks.
Yeah, these are great. Things anyone can do in like 2 minutes to get a gut check on a profile. First, scroll way back. Look at the oldest posts. Is there steady, consistent activity over time? Or did the account just appear yesterday with a fully formed history?
Okay, check the history for consistency. What's second?
Check the replies and interactions. Are they varied? Do they sound like real conversations with different people? Or is it just generic comments like, great post, copied and pasted everywhere?
Look for real engagement. Got it. And third?
Follow the links. If they list a LinkedIn profile or a personal website or a company site, click on them. Do they actually exist? Do they match the identity and the history claimed in the profile?
Right. Basic cross-referencing. Those are actually really simple, practical steps.
They are. And they immediately make you, the user, part of the verification process. An active participant, not just a passive consumer.
And speaking of participation, there's a strong point made about involving older generations, boomers, and older adults. Why is getting them involved so critical for this human genome idea?
Well, because they're a huge demographic online, right? They spend a lot of time there. But unfortunately, they're also often the targets of scams, disinformation, fake profiles.
Yeah, that's definitely a known vulnerability.
So we need their help. We need them actively flagging suspicious behavior, fake profiles. Their perspective is valuable because they might interact with content differently, maybe spot things younger, more cynical users might miss, or vice versa. We need that diversity of input to refine what real human behavior looks like online.
So it's about education and empowerment for that group, too, getting them involved in spotting the fakes.
Absolutely. They need to be part of the solution, helping to train the system, essentially, by flagging what seems off.
The underlying message through all of this seems to be urgency, like we can't wait.
Yeah, that comes through loud and clear. We have to start building and testing and refining these verification methods now, waiting for the tech to stabilize or for platforms to magically fix it. By then, it could be too late.
If 51% of traffic is already automated,
the foundation is already shaking. The collapse of authenticity isn't some far-off sci-fi scenario. It's happening. So the Liat Show is basically providing this framework, this blueprint for how we might start rebuilding trust.
Okay, so if listeners are hearing this and thinking, wow, this is important, or I want to support this kind of thinking, how can they get involved? How can they amplify this message and participate in the Liat Show itself? Because the sources say this project really needs to happen.
Yeah, and it's designed to be really interactive. For instance, people who become founding members of the Liat Show actually get to help decide what gets written next.
Oh, really? How does that work?
They get access to an index of potential story topics, future timelines she could explore, and they can vote to prioritize certain ones. So if you, as a listener, think this online identity crisis is the absolute most critical thing,
you could vote to have her write that story sooner.
Exactly. You get genuine agency in directing the project's focus, which is pretty cool.
That is cool. It feels like supporting, this isn't just about one creator. It's about supporting the development of these ideas, these blueprints for a verifiable human internet, which feels... yeah, pretty crucial right now.
It really does. And the barrier to entry is low right now. You can subscribe for free on Substack to get started. All the content that's been released so far, the stories, the podcast versions, it's all available for free subscribers initially.
Okay, so free to subscribe on Substack. And you can pledge support if you want to, but you can adjust that anytime.
Correct. And you can find the show pretty easily across different platforms. Just search The Liat Show or Liat Portal Podcast on Substack, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Patreon, Medium. It's distributed quite widely.
Good to know. Okay, so let's try and summarize the key takeaway here. We're talking about Liat Portal, this unique architect of stories and timelines.
Right, using education through entertainment.
Connecting things like incredibly schnitzel and cybersecurity,
Yeah.
all while tackling what might be the single biggest threat to our digital world. The fact that we're losing the ability to tell who or what is real online because of bot domination.
She's blending the personal with the deeply analytical, creating something pretty rare and I think needed.
So here's maybe the final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. If that data point is right, if 51% of all internet traffic is already automated, what does that truly mean for the future value of actual human connection, real personal stories online? Could it be that verified, authentic human content, like the kind Liat Portal is trying to build and champion with her unfolding story, could that become the rarest and maybe the most valuable resource we have in this digital age?
That's a really powerful question to consider. Maybe it's time we started valuing authenticity a lot more.
Definitely something to think about next time you're scrolling and wondering who's behind the post. Go check those profiles.
Yeah, and maybe subscribe to the people trying to build those blueprints for a human internet.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.